In our lives, we often unknowingly develop habits that weaken us, rob us of our inner strength, and prevent us from living to our fullest potential. These habits may seem harmless at first glance, but over time they undermine our self-confidence, resilience, and ability to face challenges. Stoic wisdom teaches us that true strength lies not in physical power or external achievements, but in the mastery of our own minds and actions. The Stoics understood that we are often our own worst enemies, and that the habits we cultivate can either lead us to greatness or keep us in a state of perpetual weakness. They believed that by recognizing and overcoming these habits, we could achieve inner freedom, self-discipline, and a life in harmony with nature. In this video, we will explore 5 habits that make you weak and discuss how to break free from them using the principles of Stoic philosophy. By identifying and addressing these habits, you can begin to reclaim your inner power and live a life of true strength and purpose. Let's dive into the wisdom of the Stoics and discover the path to overcoming these weaknesses. The habit of procrastination. Procrastination is one of the most insidious habits that weaken us. It sneaks into our lives quietly, often disguised as harmless delays or a temporary need to rest. However, over time, this habit robs us of our most valuable resource, time. Procrastination is not just about delaying tasks, it's about avoiding responsibility, escaping challenges, and ultimately undermining our self-discipline. The Stoics viewed time as one of the most precious gifts we have. To waste it is to squander a part of our life. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When we procrastinate, we are essentially delaying our potential, our growth, and our achievements. We become passive observers of our own lives, waiting for the right moment that never comes. Procrastination is rooted in fear of failure, fear of the unknown, or even fear of success. It's a way to avoid confronting these fears by putting off tasks and decisions. However, this only leads to anxiety, stress, and a sense of helplessness. The longer we delay, the more daunting the tasks become, and the more we reinforce our belief that we are not capable. The Stoics understood that the key to overcoming procrastination lies in recognizing its roots and taking immediate action. They believed in the power of the present moment and the importance of seizing it. Epictetus said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" This quote highlights the urgency of acting now, rather than waiting for the perfect conditions that may never arise. You can fight this habit by following these tips. Embrace the present moment. The Stoics taught the importance of living in the present and not delaying tasks for the future. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." By focusing on what we can do now rather than what we plan to do later, we can break the cycle of procrastination. Start small. Commit to working on a task for just 5 minutes. Often the hardest part is beginning, and once you start, momentum will carry you forward. Break down tasks. Procrastination often occurs when tasks seem overwhelming. The Stoics believed in breaking down large challenges into smaller, manageable parts. By doing so, we reduce the psychological burden and make it easier to take action. Epictetus advised, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. This approach allows you to focus on one step at a time, making the task less intimidating. Cultivate self-discipline. The Stoics placed great emphasis on self-discipline as a means to overcome procrastination. Discipline is the ability to take action even when you don't feel like it. It's about doing what needs to be done, regardless of your mood or external circumstances. Seneca wrote, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." To cultivate self-discipline, start by setting small, achievable goals and holding yourself accountable to them. Visualize the consequences of delay. One effective Stoic technique for overcoming procrastination is to visualize the negative consequences of delay. Ask yourself, what will happen if I continue to put this off? By considering the long-term impact of your inaction, you can motivate yourself to take immediate action. Marcus Aurelius advised you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This reminder of mortality can help us see the urgency of living fully in the present. Develop a routine. The Stoics believed in the power of routine to build discipline and consistency. By establishing a daily routine, you can reduce the likelihood of procrastination. Set specific times for important tasks and stick to them. Over time, this routine will become a habit, making it easier to take action without delay. Seneca said, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." A well-structured routine ensures that you make the most of each day. Procrastination is a habit that weakens our resolve and steals our time. By embracing the present moment, breaking down tasks, cultivating self-discipline, visualizing the consequences of delay, and developing a routine, we can overcome procrastination and take control of our lives. The Stoics understood that time is the most valuable resource we have, and it is our duty to use it wisely. Habit of complaining and blaming others. Complaining and blaming others is a habit that gradually weakens us. It makes us feel like victims of circumstances, depriving us of control over our own lives. When we complain, we shift responsibility for our lives onto others or external factors, thereby giving away our inner power. The Stoics believe that true strength comes from within, and that we are responsible for our reactions to the events around us. The habit of complaining and blaming others is rooted in our unwillingness to accept reality as it is. Instead of facing challenges and taking responsibility for our actions, we seek to place the blame elsewhere. This leads to a loss of inner peace and a constant sense of dissatisfaction. The Stoics taught that by taking responsibility for our own lives, we can regain control and live in harmony with ourselves. Complaints and blame are manifestations of our inability to accept responsibility for our lives. It is a refusal of the inner strength and freedom that nature has given us. The Stoics taught us to be masters of our own destiny and not to depend on external circumstances. Overcoming this habit is a step toward gaining inner strength and true freedom. How can we cope with this habit? Acceptance of reality. The first step in overcoming the habit of complaining is to accept reality as it is. The Stoics believe that we cannot control external events, but we can control our reactions to them. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By accepting reality and focusing on what we can control, we can stop complaining and start taking action. Focus on solutions, not problems. Instead of dwelling on problems and complaining about them, focus on finding solutions. The Stoics believe that every problem is an opportunity to practice virtue and grow stronger. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." By shifting your focus from the problem to the solution, you can break the habit of complaining and start making positive changes. Don't succumb to negative thoughts. When negative thoughts arise, don't let them take over. Notice them, but don't let them define your state of mind. It's important to remember that thoughts are just thoughts and don't always reflect reality. The Stoics practiced mindful observation of their thoughts, which allowed them to remain calm even in the most difficult situations. Epictetus said, If you want to be happy, learn to be independent of external circumstances. Develop self-awareness. To overcome the habit of complaining and blaming, it's important to develop self-awareness. This is the ability to be aware of your thoughts and emotions and understand how they affect your behavior. Start with a simple exercise. Every time you feel the urge to complain or blame someone, stop and think about why you feel this way. What triggered this feeling? What thoughts are behind it? Awareness of these processes will help you better understand yourself and control your behavior. Embrace personal responsibility. The Stoics believe that each person is responsible for their life and actions. When we embrace this responsibility, we stop complaining and blaming others. We understand that our thoughts, words, and actions shape our lives and that we create our own reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Taking responsibility for your life is a key step in overcoming the habit of complaining and blaming. Habit of indulging your weaknesses. Indulging in your weaknesses is a habit that makes us vulnerable and robs us of inner strength. In a modern world where an abundance of pleasures and distractions is available at every turn, it's easy to give in to temptation and indulge in our weaknesses. This could be overeating, excessive drinking, laziness, or any other forms of excess that undermine our willpower and self-control. The Stoics believed that true strength lies in one's ability to control desires and remain true to principles despite temptations. They understood that indulging in weaknesses leads to a weakening of character, a loss of self-respect, and feelings of guilt. Every time we give in to our weaknesses, we lose a part of our inner strength and become less resilient in the face of challenges. Indulging in weaknesses is not just a matter of self-discipline, it's a philosophical issue. The Stoics saw this as a manifestation of slavery to one's desires. They believed that a person should strive for freedom, and freedom is the ability to control desires rather than being their slave. Marcus Aurelius said, "Better to conquer yourself than to win 1,000 battles." This means that true victory is the victory over your weaknesses, not over external enemies. When we indulge in our weaknesses, we allow our desires to control us rather than the other way around. This leads to feelings of shame, guilt, and loss of self-control. We become dependent on our habits, which makes us vulnerable to life's difficulties. The Stoics understood that true strength lies in the ability to say no to our weaknesses and follow the path of virtue. You can fight this habit by following these tips. Practice moderation. The Stoics believed in the golden mean, not indulging in excess, but also not being too strict with oneself. Moderation is the ability to find a balance between your desires and principles. It is the ability to enjoy life without becoming a slave to your desires. By practicing moderation, we learn to control our weaknesses and strengthen our inner strength. Seneca wrote, "Live according to nature." That means living in moderation. Develop self-discipline. Self-discipline is the ability to control your desires and remain true to your principles despite temptations. This is something that can be developed through daily exercises. Start small, set small tasks for yourself and accomplish them. For example, if you're used to indulging in your desires for food, start by limiting the amount of sweets or fast food you consume. Over time, this will become a habit, and you will feel your willpower strengthening. Epictetus said, "Practice self-control every day. It is the path to true freedom." Remind yourself of the consequences. Every time you're tempted to give in to weakness, think about the long-term consequences of your actions. What will happen if you give in? How will this affect your health, relationships, career? Reminding yourself of the consequences helps to see the true cost of indulging in your weaknesses and make a conscious decision. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Everything we do leaves a trace in our soul." Practice asceticism. From time to time, refrain from excesses and pleasures to remind yourself that true strength does not depend on external goods. Asceticism helps to strengthen the will and learn to be content with little. The Stoics often practiced abstinence from food, sleep, or comforts to prepare themselves for the hardships of life. Seneca said, "Deprivation strengthens the spirit, luxury weakens." Develop inner motivation. To overcome weaknesses, it is important to find within yourself the inner motivation that is stronger than any temptation. This can be the desire for self-improvement, the desire to become stronger, or a goal that requires you to be in the best shape. Find what truly motivates you and use it as a source of strength in your fight against your weaknesses. Epictetus taught, "Strength is not in the body but in the spirit." Indulging in weaknesses is a manifestation of our inability to control our desires and remain true to our principles. It is a path to weakening character and losing inner strength. The Stoics taught us to be strong and self-disciplined so that we can stay true to ourselves and our values. Overcoming this habit is a step toward gaining true freedom and inner strength. The habit of comparing yourself to others. Comparing yourself to others is a habit that makes us unhappy and weak. In today's world, where social media and the media constantly showcase the successes and achievements of others, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing yourself to them. However, the Stoics understood that this is a path to envy, dissatisfaction with oneself, and a constant sense of failure. Comparison with others undermines our self-esteem and distracts us from our own goals and values. When we compare ourselves to others, we lose sight of what is truly important to us and begin to strive for achievements that may not be necessary for us. This leads to feelings of dissatisfaction and disappointment because we are chasing someone else's goals rather than our own. The Stoics taught that every person is unique and must follow their own path. Comparing yourself to others is an attempt to live someone else's life, not your own. Marcus Aurelius said, "It's not worth asking who is better or worse than you. Be better than yourself." This means that our goal is not to be better than someone else, but to be better than we were yesterday. Comparing yourself to others also leads to envy, one of the most destructive feelings. Envy poisons our soul, making us dissatisfied and angry. It makes us desire what others have, instead of appreciating what we have. The Stoics understood that envy is a manifestation of weakness of spirit and a lack of inner harmony. Seneca wrote, "Envy is pain at another's happiness." You can fight this habit by following these tips. Focus on your own goals and values. Instead of comparing yourself to others, focus on your own goals and values. Identify what is truly important to you and work towards achieving it. When you clearly understand your goals, it will be easier to stay on your path and not be distracted by the successes of others. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't worry about what others are doing. Focus on your own path." Practice self-reflection. The Stoics believed in the power of self-reflection, daily reflection on your actions, thoughts, and feelings. By keeping a journal where you record your achievements, mistakes, and lessons, you can better understand yourself and your progress. This will help you focus on your own path and avoid comparing yourself to others. Seneca advised, every evening ask yourself, what did I do today to become better? Develop gratitude for your achievements. Instead of envying the successes of others, learn to rejoice in your own achievements. Keep a gratitude journal where you write down everything you have accomplished. This will help you see your own progress and feel satisfied with your successes. Epictetus said, "Do not judge your happiness by the standards of others." Recognize the uniqueness of your path. Every person is unique, and their path is also unique. The Stoics taught us to embrace our uniqueness and not try to be someone else. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You are unique. Follow your path without looking back at others." This means that each of us should strive to be the best version of ourselves, rather than trying to emulate others. Practice meditation on death, memento mori. The Stoics often meditated on death to remind themselves of the brevity of life and what truly matters. Reflecting on death helps to get rid of envy and comparison with others because it reminds us that we are all mortal, and that in the end, the only thing that matters is how we lived our lives, not what others think of us. Seneca wrote, "Live each day as if it were your last." Comparing yourself to others is a habit that makes us unhappy and weakens our spirit. The Stoics taught us to focus on our own path and be the best version of ourselves. Overcoming this habit is a step towards inner harmony and true happiness. A habit of avoiding difficulties and responsibility. Avoiding difficulties and responsibility is one of the most dangerous habits that make us weak and deprive us of inner strength. In a modern world where many strive for comfort and ease, it's easy to fall into the trap of avoiding difficult situations and shirking responsibility for our actions. However, the Stoics understood that true strength lies in the ability to accept difficulties as part of life and take responsibility for our actions. Avoiding difficulties is a manifestation of fear of the unknown and failure. We fear that we may not cope, that we will be judged, or that we will be judged, or that we will fail. However, the Stoics taught that difficulties are not the enemy, but an opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius said, "Difficulties are what make us strong." This means that every time we face and overcome difficulties, we become stronger and wiser. Avoiding responsibility is a refusal of adult life. When we refuse to take responsibility for our actions, we shift it onto others or external circumstances. This makes us weak and dependent on other people. The Stoics believe that each person is responsible for their own life and actions. Epictetus taught, "Do not blame others for your misfortunes. Take responsibility for yourself." Avoiding difficulties and responsibility leads to a loss of self-respect and inner peace. When we avoid difficult situations, we lose the opportunity to grow and develop. When we avoid responsibility, we lose control over our lives. This makes us vulnerable to external circumstances and dependent on other people. The Stoics understood that true strength lies in the ability to accept difficulties and take responsibility for one's life. You can fight this habit by following these tips. Acceptance of the inevitability of difficulties. The Stoics believe that difficulties are an inevitable part of life and that they are unavoidable. By realizing this, we can stop fearing difficulties and start seeing them as an opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do not avoid difficulties, but seek in them an opportunity to strengthen your spirit." This means that every time we face difficulties, we should perceive them as a chance to become stronger. Acceptance of responsibility for your life. Avoiding responsibility is a refusal of control over your life. The Stoics taught that each person is responsible for their actions and for their destiny. Accepting responsibility for your actions and decisions is the first step towards gaining inner strength and independence. Epictetus said, "You are the master of your destiny." Accept this and do not try to shift responsibility onto others. Developing courage in the face of difficulties. Courage is the ability to act despite fear. The Stoics believe that courage is one of the main virtues that helps us overcome difficulties and take responsibility for our lives. Practice courage every day, starting small. For example, if you are afraid of public speaking, start by speaking to a small audience. Over time, your courage will grow, and you will be able to handle bigger difficulties. Seneca wrote, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the overcoming of it." Practice viewing difficulties as opportunities. Instead of avoiding difficulties, learn to see them as opportunities for growth and development. When faced with a difficult situation, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I become stronger? This approach will help you change your perception of difficulties and see them as opportunities to strengthen your spirit. Marcus Aurelius said, "The obstacle is the way." Evaluate your actions in terms of long-term consequences. Avoiding difficulties and responsibility may bring temporary relief, but in the long run, it will lead to a loss of inner strength and self-respect. Every time you face a difficult situation or responsibility, think about the long-term consequences of your actions. What will happen if you avoid this situation? What will happen if you take responsibility? This will help you make more conscious decisions and strengthen your inner strength. Avoiding difficulties and responsibility is a path to weakness and the loss of inner strength. The Stoics taught us to accept difficulties as part of life and take responsibility for our actions. This is the path to true freedom and inner harmony. These 5 habits are not just manifestations of weakness, they are barriers that prevent us from becoming strong, confident, and free individuals. Stoic philosophy offers us a path to liberation from these habits through self-knowledge, discipline, and acceptance of responsibility for our lives. By overcoming these habits, we can gain inner strength and live in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. In the journey of life, the habits we cultivate can either strengthen us or gradually weaken our resolve, our character, and our inner peace. The 5 habits discussed in this video: procrastination, complaining and blaming others, indulging in weaknesses, comparing ourselves to others, and avoiding difficulties and responsibility are insidious because they often go unnoticed until they have already taken a toll on our lives. Stoic philosophy offers a timeless and powerful approach to overcoming these habits. By embracing the wisdom of the Stoics, we can learn to take control of our thoughts, actions, and emotions. We can develop the resilience and inner strength needed to face life's challenges with courage and grace. The Stoics teach us that true strength is not found in external achievements or physical power, but in our ability to master ourselves, to live in harmony with nature, and to act according to our principles. As you reflect on these habits and the lessons of Stoicism, consider how you can apply these teachings to your own life. Begin by taking small steps toward breaking these habits, and over time, you will see a profound transformation in your mindset, your behavior, and your overall sense of well-being. Remember, the journey to inner strength is a lifelong process, but with dedication and the guidance of Stoic wisdom, you can achieve a life of true freedom, purpose, and fulfillment. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the habits that weaken us and the Stoic path to overcoming them. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with others who may benefit from these insights. Together, we can cultivate the strength and wisdom needed to live our best lives.